how does a 2-ton vehicle simply, vanish into thin air?
Right in the middle of a major American city.
Exactly. I mean, picture this for a second. It's the night of July 3, 1997.
Okay.
You are standing in this quiet Indianapolis subdivision. The warm summer air is thick, and you can hear that steady ambient sound of crickets echoing through the neighborhood.
Sounds like a perfect summer night.
It really does. The soft yellow glow of porch lights is illuminating the driveways, and you see a mother of two, Bonnie, waving goodbye to her 10-year-old daughter Gretchen and her husband Rick.
Right.
She pulls out of the driveway, heading off to attend a coworker's birthday party. It looks like just an ordinary summer night. But here's the chilling reality. She would never return.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So today, you and I, and you listening at home, we are fellow investigators standing at the edge of a mystery that has gone unsolved for nearly 30 years.
It's a long time.
It is. And our mission for this deep dive is super clear. We are going to reconstruct the fractured timeline of Bonnie's disappearance.
Which is deeply fractured, by the way.
So fractured. We're going to strip away decades of neighborhood rumors and really examine how investigative tunnel vision and, honestly, a cascade of truly catastrophic early police errors may have buried the truth forever.
Yeah, it's a profound tragedy. And, it forces us to look critically at how investigations are actually built from the ground up.
Right.
Because when we examine the facts of this case, we really have to rely on a cardinal rule of criminal investigation. In unsolved mysteries, the absence of evidence is often just as telling as the evidence itself.
That is so true.
I mean, sometimes the gaping holes in a case file point us exactly to where the system failed.
Okay, so let's step right into the immediate aftermath. The sun comes up on the morning of July 4th, and Bonnie is not in her bed.
Right.
She hasn't come home. Now, as happens in almost every single case where a wife goes missing, the spotlight immediately, blindingly, falls on the husband.
Always the husband first.
Always. Rick is cast as the prime suspect before the first 24 hours are even up.
Which, isn't unusual, but they lock onto it fast here.
So fast. The police start building a narrative. They note that the marriage had some strain. Like, a couple of years prior, Bonnie's mother had passed away quickly from cancer.
Oh, that's awful.
Yeah, and it had severely shifted Bonnie's perspective on life. She had talked about wanting a divorce, though Rick was, trying to talk her into intermediate steps first, counseling, that sort of thing.
Right, trying to save the marriage.
Exactly. But the police zoom in on what they believe is the ultimate trump card, a financial motive.
Ah, of course.
They discover that right around the time she disappeared, the couple cashed out a life insurance policy for $18,000. Boom. A tidy, classic motive.
But, and this is a big but.
Right. I know you've looked at the financial records here. Does that narrative actually hold water?
It shatters completely once you look at the actual financial mechanics of that $18,000 check.
Really? How so?
Well, the police narrative implies this was some secret policy Rick took out on his wife to cash in on her death.
Right. That's exactly what it sounds like.
The reality is, the money was from a policy on Rick himself.
Wait, his own policy?
Yes. At the time, Rick had taken out a loan against his company's profit-sharing plan. For context, this operates very similarly to borrowing against your 401k today.
Okay, I follow.
So he was considering changing jobs. But if you leave a company before a profit-sharing loan is paid off, the remaining balance is treated as early taxable income.
Oh, yikes.
Exactly. In the 1990s, the tax hit, and the financial penalties on that would have been absolutely devastating.
Wait, so the $18,000 was just a mechanism to avoid a tax penalty on his own retirement account?
Precisely. It was a mutual, highly practical financial decision to cash out the life insurance policy on him so they could pay off the loan before he changed jobs.
So it had nothing to do with her disappearing?
Nothing. It was entirely above board. Bonnie was fully aware of it, and investigators later confirmed the money went exactly where Rick said it went, directly to pay off that profit-sharing loan. It wasn't a windfall triggered by her disappearance at all. Now, Bonnie did have her own life insurance policies, totaling about $50,000. But those were standard, heavily regulated policies.
Meaning they don't just, hand you a check because your spouse isn't answering their phone.
Correct. Standard life insurance only pays out upon legally proven death. If someone simply vanishes without a body, the surviving spouse receives absolutely nothing until a missing person is legally declared dead in absentia.
Which takes years.
Right. Rick didn't see a single dime of that $50,000 until 7 years later.
Good grief, 7 years.
Yeah, in 2004, when he finally went through the agonizing legal process, of having Bonnie officially declared dead.
I really want to pause here and look at how dangerous this initial police logic is. I mean, building a murder case against a husband based on this $18,000 transaction, it's like building a spam filter for your inbox, but programming it incredibly poorly.
Oh, that's an interesting way to put it.
Right, like once the algorithm decides an email is spam, it filters all subsequent emails from that sender into the junk folder, even if they are urgently important. The police effectively turned on a Rick is guilty filter on day one.
They absolutely did.
And from that moment on, all exonerating evidence, all of the logical financial explanations, it just went straight into the junk folder. I mean, they lived within their means. Her disappearing made his financial life exponentially harder, not easier.
Exactly.
Because now he's raising a 10-year-old and an older son on a single income.
That spam filter analogy is honestly the perfect way to understand confirmation bias. When investigators lock on to a suspect that early, they view every subsequent piece of data through the lens of guilt.
Everything becomes suspicious.
Right. And the real danger of that tunnel vision isn't just the false motives, it's the massive operational blind spots it creates. Because law enforcement was so hyper-focused on proving Rick did it, they completely neglected to execute the most basic, standard investigative protocols required for a missing person.
Which brings us to a detail that, as someone who studies these cases, leaves me absolutely stunned.
Yeah, this one is rough.
When Bonnie vanished that night, her car vanished with her.
Yep.
The standard operating procedure in 1997, and today for that matter, is that you immediately enter the missing vehicle's details into the NCIC.
The National Crime Information Center database.
Right. And the mechanism is so simple. If any patrol officer anywhere in the country runs a license plate or a VIN during a routine traffic stop, or even while checking an abandoned vehicle, the system immediately flags it as connected to a missing person.
It's the most basic safety net we have.
Exactly. But what actually happened here?
Well, a local report noted that, quote, her car was gone. But the actual vehicle details, like the license plate, the VIN, the make and model, they were never submitted to the National NCIC database.
Are you kidding me?
Nope. The entry was completely botched.
So no one was looking for it at all.
For 2 full years.
2 years.
Yes. It wasn't until 1999 that a different detective, doing a routine check and balance on cold cases, realized the car was never put into the system.
That is just, I can't even process that.
The catastrophic ripple effect of this administrative failure, it just cannot be overstated. A human body can be hidden in a relatively small space, right? But a large vehicle.
A vehicle is incredibly difficult to conceal.
Exactly. By failing to execute that NCIC entry, investigators lost their absolute best chance of tracking Bonnie's movements in the critical days after she vanished.
I mean, imagine a patrol officer seeing that specific car parked strangely on the side of a highway on July 6, 1997.
Right. They see it, they run the plates.
And because of the error, the system returns nothing suspicious. The officer just drives on.
And the evidence is lost forever.
It's heartbreaking. And if you thought the car was a bad oversight, the way they handled the digital evidence is arguably worse.
Oh, the cell phones.
Let's talk about the cell phone. Having a cell phone in 1997 was still somewhat of a luxury, but Bonnie did have one. Rick told police he tried calling her repeatedly that night and all through the next day.
Which is what you do when your spouse doesn't come home.
Exactly. The police built part of their timeline on the claim that there was no activity on Bonnie's phone for a day or two before she went missing, suggesting she wasn't answering calls. But did they actually pull the hard copy phone records to verify Rick's timeline? Did they check the cell towers?
No. They absolutely didn't.
Unbelievable.
They relied entirely on a verbal confirmation over the phone from Bonnie's service provider.
Over the phone.
Just a quick chat. And this represents a profound misunderstanding of how technology worked at the time. In 1997, cell phone billing mechanisms were entirely different from today's digital logs.
Right, because the systems were designed for billing, not for tracking location.
Exactly. Many providers only logged a call on the physical record if it actually connected and resulted in a per-minute charge.
Oh, so if it just rang.
An unanswered ringing phone often didn't register on the provider's end at all. By relying on a verbal summary instead of subpoenaing the physical records of both Rick and Bonnie, the police effectively guessed at the timeline.
So we have a faulty timeline based on a fundamental misunderstanding of 90s telecom infrastructure and a massive blind spot where a 2-ton vehicle should be.
It's a disaster.
It is. Fast forward to today. The current detective on the case notes there have been over 20 water searches looking for this car. Private groups using advanced sonar have scoured the area. The bodies of water along her route home have been totally cleared.
They've looked everywhere.
Everywhere. The car was never found abandoned on land, never sold for scrap, never popped up in a tow yard. If the police algorithm filtered out everything but Rick, and Rick was at home with his daughter who slipped through the cracks, like, who actually saw her last?
To answer that, we really have to look outside the marriage, because Bonnie was leading a pretty complex life. She was having an affair with a man named John. According to the police files, John was at the same birthday party at the bar that night. He provided a statement to the police saying he watched Bonnie drive away, headed home, and that he had absolutely no idea she was missing until 2 days later, on Saturday, when a coworker informed him.
And the police just accepted that?
Well, they gave John a polygraph test. He reportedly passed. And based largely on that, they cleared him and deemed his timeline credible.
Okay, I have to push back on the police relying on a polygraph to clear the lover.
I know, it's wild.
We know now that polygraphs do not detect lies. They measure physiological stress responses, heart rate, blood pressure, skin conductivity. Passing one in 1997 might have taken you off the suspect board, but it is an inherently flawed mechanism.
Highly flawed.
And we know it's flawed here because a reporter recently uncovered brand new information that completely shatters John's timeline.
Yes, this is a massive detail.
Right. The reporter tracked down John's daughter, Kim. Kim lived in Texas at the time, but in this bizarre stroke of cold case luck, she happened to be visiting her dad in Indianapolis that exact 4th of July weekend.
Talk about timing.
Seriously. Kim, who was 16 in 1997, revealed that she and her dad were supposed to meet Bonnie on Friday, July 4th.
The day after she disappeared.
Exactly. They were going to a concert called the Uncle Sam Jam to see the Bare Naked Ladies. It was supposed to be a big introduction, you know, but Bonnie never showed up. And Kim explicitly remembers that her dad was worried sick that Friday. It ruined their entire day.
This completely upends the official record. I mean, in his police statement, John claimed he didn't know she was missing until Saturday.
Right.
Yet his own daughter vividly recalls him actively worrying about her unexplained absence on Friday afternoon. This forces us to really analyze the psychology of his statement. Why lie to the police about when you realize she was gone?
Right. If someone you love doesn't show up to a concert, you tell the police everything. You don't hide the timeline.
Well, you might if your primary goal is self-preservation.
Ah, true.
The innocent explanation is that John, a married man having an affair, wanted to minimize his connection to a missing woman to protect his secret life.
Just trying to stay out of the spotlight.
Exactly. He might have assumed she was simply dealing with marital strife at home and backed away to avoid the fallout. But by withholding the detail about the missed concert, he fundamentally altered the investigators' understanding of the timeline.
And the vacuum of information just keeps growing, because John wasn't the only one guarding secrets. We really have to look at Anita, the coworker whose birthday party Bonnie attended that night.
Oh, this part is just baffling.
Decades later, Bonnie's neighbor Diane, who, by the way, was one of the people who initially suspected Rick, reached out to Anita. She begged for any detail, any scrap of information about Bonnie's state of mind that night.
And Anita's response?
She absolutely refuses to speak, not to Diane, not to investigators, and most chillingly, not to Bonnie's children who have practically pleaded for answers.
It's hard to hear.
Her reasoning. She stated, quote, "I would never betray her trust."
So from a psychological standpoint, this is a fascinating, if incredibly destructive, defense mechanism.
How so?
Well, when a sudden ambiguous trauma occurs, some individuals lock their memories in a mental vault. They convince themselves that maintaining a secret they promised to keep in life is a noble way of honoring the deceased.
Wow.
Yeah, it gives them a false sense of control over an uncontrollable tragedy.
I mean, I understand the psychology, I really do, but I have to push back hard on this vault mentality.
Oh, absolutely.
We are talking about a mother who vanished into thin air. Why keep a secret when your friend might have been murdered? Is twisted loyalty really overriding basic logic and justice?
Apparently so for her.
If I go missing, I want my friends screaming my deepest secrets from the rooftops if it helps find whoever took me. Refusing to speak to a son who is desperately looking for his mother because of some misguided 1997 girl code, it isn't noble. It's an obstruction of truth.
It is deeply frustrating. But it highlights the dense environment of secrecy surrounding Bonnie in those final weeks. We have an affair hidden by lies, a strained marriage, and silent coworkers.
A perfect storm of missing information.
Exactly. When traditional investigative avenues dry up because people won't talk and evidence wasn't logged properly, human nature abhors the vacuum. and people often turn to unconventional methods to find answers.
Which leads us directly to the neighbor, Diane, and the psychic profile.
Here we go.
Now, I know some of you listening might instinctively roll your eyes at the mention of mediums in a true crime investigation.
Fair enough.
But set aside the supernatural element for a moment and listen to the theory it generated, because it is chillingly plausible. Over the years, Diane visited 3 entirely separate mediums, and without prompting, every single one of them told her the exact same phrase: "It's not who you think that did it."
Meaning the husband was a red herring.
Exactly. But it goes deeper. Recently, a very well-known medium provided a highly specific profile without knowing any of the case facts beforehand.
Okay, what was the profile?
This profile suggested an alternative theory. Bonnie was targeted by a stranger, specifically someone with a burglary record who had been watching her.
A crime of opportunity.
Right. The theory suggests a swift, silent ambush right in her own driveway as she pulled in late at night. The attacker overpowers her, never lets her out of the car, and drives off with her in her own vehicle.
No.
The theory even points to her remains being in a wooded area with walking paths near housing developments that were under construction in 1997, specifically pointing toward the Eagle Creek area on the west side of Indianapolis.
You know, if we strip away the psychic delivery system for a second and ground this purely impractical criminal profiling, this theory resolves several major evidentiary black holes that the police narrative just ignores.
Really? How so?
Well, if this was a stranger abduction of opportunity, a predator who watched a lone woman pull into a quiet driveway, it perfectly explains the mechanics of the vanishing car.
Oh, right, because he drives it away.
Exactly. It wasn't an elaborate cover-up by a husband with hours to spare. It was a mobile crime scene driven away by the perpetrator. It also explains why the driveway yielded absolutely no forensic evidence.
Because there was no bloody struggle on the pavement.
Right. She was forced back into her seat, or perhaps she never even had the chance to put the car in park and get out.
But logistically, how does that actually work? My pushback here is really about the environment. How could a struggle, even a muffled one, happen in a suburban driveway without waking anyone?
It's tough, but it happens.
I mean, Gretchen, her 10-year-old daughter, was sleeping just inside the house. Rick was presumably inside. The houses in that subdivision are close together. An ambush like that implies a terrifyingly fast and controlled abduction.
It requires immense control, but in profiling, it is a known mechanism of attack. Predators who stalk their victims often wait for a specific moment of transition.
Transition, like from the car to the house.
Exactly, between the perceived safety of the car and the locked safety of the home. In tactical terms, we actually call this the fatal funnel.
The fatal funnel. Wow.
Yeah. The victim is distracted. The engine is off. They are grabbing their purse, checking their keys, just letting their guard down. If a perpetrator blitz attacks with a weapon in that specific window, compliance is usually immediate.
Because they're just completely shocked.
Right. The victim goes entirely silent out of sheer terror, hoping compliance will save their life.
And in that moment of terror, that phantom car that won't be entered into the national database for 2 whole years reverses out of the driveway and speeds away toward a construction site near Eagle Creek.
Exactly.
And because the police algorithm has already filtered for Rick, they aren't looking for a burglar. They aren't looking for a stranger. They're literally pulling up the carpet in Rick's living room.
It's tragic. The cascade of systemic failures, combined with a narrow initial hypothesis, allowed a predator to just drive off into the night.
And we have to examine the collateral damage of that tunnel vision because it is immense and it is multi-generational.
It truly devastated the family.
Let's bring this back to the present day. Rick lived the rest of his life under a heavy, unproven suspicion of murder. He never remarried. He eventually moved to Michigan, trying to start fresh, but the cloud just always followed him.
February 1.
Yeah. And he died in 2022, having never been cleared by the police and having never found out what happened to his wife.
The police essentially adopted a strategy of attrition with him.
What do you mean?
They believed he did it, and they were simply waiting for him to slick up. I mean, think about it. A full decade later, in 2008, investigators traveled all the way up to Michigan and executed a tense, nearly 7-hour interrogation with him.
7 hours?
Yeah. They secured a search warrant for his home, casting a massive net looking for anything. Browsing history, hidden keepsakes, a #1 mom necklace, you name it. They confiscated all of the family's electronic devices.
And what did they find?
After all of that, they found absolutely nothing connecting him to the disappearance.
But what that 2008 raid did do was shatter whatever remaining trust Bonnie's children had in the system. We have to talk about the heartbreaking reality for Bonnie's son, Josh.
This part is so unfair.
It's infuriating. During that intense search of their home looking for evidence of a murdered mother, the police happened to find a tiny amount of weed in Josh's room.
Just unbelievable priorities.
Right. And instead of focusing on the mission of finding a missing woman, the local police actually slapped Josh with a charge for it.
Talk about losing sight of the goal.
And it gets worse. When the Indianapolis police finally returned the family's computers and phones years later, they returned them completely broken and unusable.
So destructive.
Think about the psychological mechanism at play there. You are the victim of a horrific, life-altering loss, and the people sworn to protect you and help you find your mother are instead treating you like a criminal and destroying your property.
It creates profound, permanent alienation. Law enforcement shifts from being the advocate to being the adversary. For a child who has lost a parent, that creates a secondary trauma that just never heals.
It's a wound that stays open.
Yeah. In psychology, we call what the family is experiencing ambiguous loss.
Ambiguous loss.
Right. It was coined by Dr. Pauline Boss, and it describes a loss that occurs without closure or clear understanding. Because there is no body, no car, no definitive proof of death, the human brain cannot fully process the grief.
So they're just stuck.
Every possibility, no matter how remote, remains agonizingly alive in their minds.
Yet, despite all of that betrayal by the system and the weight of that ambiguous loss, Josh has never given up. Even now, living in Florida, he works with private dive teams.
He's relentless.
He spends his nights scouring topographical maps for bodies of water that might hide a car. He looks into old, flooded quarries north of Indianapolis.
He is physically carrying the entire weight of this investigation on his own shoulders.
And that leaves us with a provocative, deeply unsettling thought for you to mull over as we close this file. We often demand the simplest narrative. The husband did it.
It's easy. It's safe.
Right. It fits a trope we understand, and frankly, we cling to it because the alternative is simply too terrifying to process.
Because the alternative means anyone is vulnerable.
Exactly. But if Rick was innocent, and the staggering lack of evidence heavily suggests he might be, then the tragedy of this crime is doubled.
How so?
Well, a mother was stolen in the dead of night by a phantom stranger operating in the shadows of her own driveway. And a father's life was stolen by the very system designed to protect him.
That is a chilling way to look at it.
But perhaps the most haunting part of this case is where it leaves us today. Because law enforcement closed the book early with a neat, easy narrative, the immense physical, financial, and emotional burden of justice has been entirely outsourced to a grieving son.
Which is just a colossal failure.
Ask yourself, what does it say about our justice system when a private citizen has to spend his weekends funding sonar searches of freezing quarries just to do the job the state failed to do 30 years ago?
It really asks us to consider who truly owns the burden of the truth when the system walks away.
Keep digging, keep questioning the narrative. We'll see you on the next deep dive.